Well, it's Sunday morning. Here we are, Joe Rayo and Joe Chaffee on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. On Joe Rayo's big day here, he has reached the almost to the third plateau, but not quite.
Not quite,
Not
not quite.
quite. But happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I was telling both my wife and my daughter, and also my sister last night, that you have some vivid memories of parts of your life. And August the 1st, 1964, which was a Saturday, just like yesterday was a Saturday. I remember that my grandparents took me, my sister, and I to the New York World's Fair, and we took a bus from Throgs Neck over the Whitestone Bridge to the World's Fair that year, and we saw all the exhibits. One of the things that really stands out in my mind, Joe,
Hmm.
is at the Vatican Pavilion. Cardinal Spellman actually spoke with or contacted Pope Paul for permission to take the Pietà, Michelangelo's Pietà, and bring it to New York and exhibit it at the World's Fair. And I remember standing on a conveyor belt, and we all rolled past the Pietà. And my grandmother, especially, was very, very impressed with the statue, this magnificent statue done by Michelangelo, and a few other things that stand out during that trip. I visited the World's Fair 3 times,
Right.
but this visit stands out because I remember standing at the bus stop on our way back home that night with my grandparents and my mother, my sister, and everything. And I asked my grandfather. I said, "What time is it?" And he said, "It's almost midnight. It's a couple of minutes to midnight." And I looked at him and I said, "You know what? In a couple of minutes, I'm going to be 8 years old." And that was 56 years ago, but it stands out in my mind that day like it was just yesterday or the day before. And I can't believe that all of these years have passed, and here we are now, all of these years later, and here we are.
Uh, you know, Someone once told me the following statement, and I think there's so much truth to it. Most oftentimes the days feel like eternities, and the years just fly by,
Right.
and I think that is indeed quite true. There's some days where you think that it will never end, and then
I mean,
suddenly and then you
uh,
suddenly wake up and a decade's gone by.
I mean, I like I said, so many facets of that day remain so vivid to me. Like, for example, when we were on that, it was like a conveyor belt, and we were all like moving along past the Pietà. I still remember my grandmother looking down at me and saying, "Take a look at that, Joseph, because you may never see something like that again. This is a magnificent." She was explaining to me
Hmm.
what the Pietà meant, and how important it was, and it was done by Michelangelo. And I still remember, again, vivid memories of just one special day in your life. And of course, what happened about a decade later? Some hammer wielding nut tried to destroy the Pietà. I think actually knocked the nose or cracked the nose off the Virgin Mary. It shows you the kind of crazy world we live
Yeah,
in.
I actually saw the P. I saw it when I went to Italy in the mid 1980s, and
But it was, but by then,
it had been
when you saw it,
it was it
it was probably in plexiglass or whatever, or encased in glass.
yeah, it was repaired, and it was encased in security. But yeah, I did
I
see
mean,
it.
like, I'm telling you, and maybe somebody could look it up on YouTube or Wikipedia or whatever like that. But when we saw it at the World's Fair in '64, there was no glass, there was no shield
Right.
surrounding it. I mean, who in his right mind would dare to, let's say, leap over the partition, run over and try to do something to that statue? But again, it shows you the crazy world that we've lived in, or we have evolved into. Back then, a kinder and gentler era in our lives to where we are right now.
Mm, well,
Mm.
and when we're kids, you see things in a different way than when you are as an adult. So it
Right.
it just is. All
But
right,
anyway,
go ahead.
let's talk
So,
weather.
all right, so we got two things going on, and of importance. Uh, since you're the birthday boy today, we'll let you decide what you want to do first. Do we do today's severe weather risk first, and then do Isaias, or do we do Isaias first and then do the severe weather risk?
You keep calling it that, and my wife's going to rush down here and scream at you because again, last night, Jeff Smith on ABC was showing the
What does he
storm,
say? Isaias?
and he's saying Isaias, and I looked at my wife and I said, "Is he saying it right?" And she said, "Yes." You're not.
Isaias? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
But don't no. Let's
that's
just call it
fine.
number 9. Let's
Okay.
call
So
it number 9.
you want to do the tropical storm first.
No, I want to do the severe weather
Want to do the
first.
severe weather first? Okay, that's
As
fine.
Jimmy Durante would say, first things first.
Okay, so right, exactly. Uh, so let's bring up. I'll bring up the radar because we do actually have. Well, even before that, we'll bring up the how about the severe weather risk for today?
Okay.
And actually, one of the things that I want to also touch on is I brought up the Cape. I found the mesoscale Cape map on SPC's site for later
Okay.
this afternoon, and take a look at the instability on this thing because the Cape values are supposed to go almost up to 3,000 uh, late this afternoon, this evening. I mean, we're just covered in this. If you
Right.
The atmosphere just doesn't get any more unstable than what you have here.
We said yesterday, I think I went on the plumes yesterday and mentioned that for LaGuardia, they were indicating something in excess of 2,600 for the Cape values, and that was impressive. And
That's
what
all
you're
the
saying
yellow,
is,
by the way, folks. You see the areas in yellow. That's all capes of on the scale. That's actually 3,000. Uh,
well, you can see that strip of yellow that's crossing through our area, right? So
yes, the
that's
Jersey coast, all the way up to through New York City to northeast New Jersey, up to about Orange County, northwest Jersey. That's all in there in that zone of cape values of 3,000 or higher. That's a really unstable atmosphere.
indeed it is.
And by the way, it
Just
does run down also down to Delaware, Maryland, Eastern Maryland, the Delmarva Peninsula. So it looks like it's right up along the immediate coastline.
I mean, the atmosphere is just prime. We just have to wait now for a triggering mechanism. Although I must tell you, Joe, that this morning we did have some shower activity right here in Putnam County, and my brother-in-law, who is in Brodheadsville, Pennsylvania, northeast Pennsylvania, said that it rained to beat the band where he was a little while ago. So all you have to do is just shake a stick at the air, and it'll start to rain.
Oh, I know it is. It's pretty awful outside in terms of the. Actually, I got out this morning when the dew points were still reasonable, and it was okay to walk. But it was funny because I was out walking for about an hour and a half, and in as I got toward the end of that walk, I could distinctly feel the change in the dew point and in the humidity had gone up because this warm front is going through pretty much right now.
Right.
And the Storm Prediction Center, Scott, they split the risk area in two, where they have a slight risk, the northern half of New Jersey, extreme northeast PA, north of just along and north and west of New York City into western Connecticut, all at a slight risk. But they still have this 5% area of tornado risk. You just don't see that very often.
No, you don't.
Certainly not in the
Normally,
Northeast, anyway.
normally when we get something, it's like usually 2%. So 5% is kind of up high there on the scale.
Very much so. Now, looking at the radar, I'm going to bring up. I'll bring up the radar. We'll go with the full loop because I'll just leave it up so that I can just move it around. And we've got these scattered showers and storms that are moving through upstate New York and into New England. This is the warm front that's going by. It's later this afternoon and into this evening when we'll have to see what develops as far as showers and storms with all that instability that's up in the atmosphere. And Joe, you got something there on the screen that you're pulling up?
Yeah, I'm waiting until you're done or whatever. But I'm showing this is the RPM, or as you if you watch television, what the on-camera weather people call the future cast. And I figured I would just show what the future cast is showing, not just for today, but also for the coming days ahead, how it's handling Isaias. And I'm just trying to get the camera straightened out here so that it would come out reasonably well. How does it look on your screen? Is it
Perfect, right? Just like that is perfect.
right? Okay. So I'm not even sure. Are we on? Are we on? Did you throw it back to me or?
No, no, you're
Oh,
the
okay.
radar's
All right. Yeah,
still
you
up
can.
there.
All right. Keep talking, and showing your graphics, and then when you're done, you can show everybody this graphic. And
Okay. No, well,
so
I actually, Joe, I got it set up. I'm going to set it up now where we got both graphics are up at the same time in the split screen mode, and the weather service radar is up. I'm just going to center it a bit better here, so everybody just give me a moment, and you can see there really isn't too much happening other than the scattered stuff that we have at the moment. And then we're just going to have to wait, as I said, for this cold front to swing on through. Once we get through this, though, Joe, you see the thunderstorms on the RPM. I'm just looking at it; they really fire up in a big way this evening. And then toward the end, of course, of the RPM, you see what it's doing with our tropical storm as it moves up the coast. And I think this is going to be a tropical storm that's going to move on through everything that we talked about yesterday with regards to strength, rainfall, wind, expectations, and timing. To me, Joe, have not changed since overnight with what's gone on overnight and what's going on this morning.
well, the RPM right now, yesterday, and looking at the RPM, it showed like one football shaped type blob of red and purple that was being kicked right toward us, which obviously was the tropical system. And now, if you notice, it's no longer a football shaped blob. It's more like a spiral, if you will, that emerges from the bottom of the screen, and it's moving rather quickly. So, once again, we're going to be dealing with a few hours of squally type winds and rain, but that's going to be about it. See, here it comes up and in and through, and it's according to the time clock here at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if you can see that, but according to what I have here, that pretty well is over said and done after midnight Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning.
Right.
Uh,
I have the new NAM running side by side with your RPM, by the way, and you have the system in Chesapeake Bay by at 10 p.m. on Tuesday. The NAM is a little slower than now. It keeps slowing down here, but that's by 10 p.m. It's in Chesapeake Bay at 2. I'm sorry, 11 p.m. at 2 a.m. It is sitting in Delaware Bay, and by 5 a.m. the center's at New York City. So
5 a.m. Wednesday morning.
5 a.m. Wednesday morning. I mean,
Right.
it basically, I mean, it's got uh, the what we talked about yesterday with respect to along and west of the track of the low is where your heavy rain is going to be. So that means if you take a low that moves in southeastern Virginia, eastern Maryland, south central, southeastern Pennsylvania, western New Jersey, gets into heavy rain, and then the rain starts to cut off once you go east of New York City. I mean, there's one good shot of rain that moves up through New Jersey into northern New Jersey, western Long Island, and the western half of Connecticut, and of course it just hits northern northwest New Jersey very hard. And extreme northeast PA, and then up the Hudson Valley. By Wednesday morning, the low is in western Massachusetts, the low center, and it's still pretty windy here. I mean, it's probably a nice breeze working from the northwest, and we should see improving weather conditions. I haven't gotten a chance to understand why the NAM is so much slower than everything else. We'll have to wait and see if the other models are going to go the same route, or if the timing of the hurricane center, which would argue that by midnight everything is the worst of it is over with from New York City south. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see which one's going to hold better.
Well, here you see one nice thing about the this RPM model I'm able to do is I'm able to stop it and even go backwards if I care to. But what you're seeing right now on the screen, the spiral, which is obviously the tropical storm, this is for 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, notice if you will, according to this, the really heavy duty stuff is still not quite into New York City, although it's covering a good part of central New Jersey and over into, well, for example, Mr. Casper and Seaside Park, if this verifies, will be right in the thick of things at 9:30 in the evening on Tuesday night. But then notice how quickly this thing moves. Already the back end is moving past New York City by this is 12:30 a.m. just after midnight on Wednesday morning. And then when we get on into, let's say, 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. All of it is moved on up into central New England, and that's as far as the loop goes. This loop can go
Right.
out to 72 hours, but the 12Z is run of the RPM is still being processed. So my last frame here is at 67:30 or 3:30 a.m. On Wednesday morning. But you can see if the RPM pans out, it's all the heavy stuff is all over with. And it's only with us for 3 or 4 hours, and then that's it.
Yeah. This is basically, maybe from the first raindrop to the last raindrop, and the first puff of wind. Well, the wind is probably going to last a little bit longer on the backside, but at least in terms of the rain, it's a 6 to 8 hour event from the first drop to the last drop, and then maybe like 4 hours where 4 or 5 hours where we get hit pretty hard with heavy rains and heavy downpours. One of the things I'm noticing I'm bringing the new NAM up wide now. One of the things I'm noticing, Joe, is just how an absolute crawl this system that Isaias is uh, moving along the coast of Florida. I mean, it's literally crawling up the coast so that it takes all day today and all day tomorrow before it finally emerges east of Jacksonville. I mean, that's a long time for it to move up the entire, that 300-mile length of the coastline, taking almost 48 hours. Well, 30, let's say 36 hours to be fair, to move that distance. But this is maybe one of the reasons why, if it's that slow, then it perhaps means that it just gets here a little later. The I don't think this is going to become a hurricane. I really don't.
Well,
It's
if it
too.
hasn't become a hurricane by now, I don't think it is. I agree with you. I don't think it is going to become a hurricane again. Yesterday, they took it down to a tropical storm. It was only 5 miles below. They said, well, it's because of the southwest shear and because of the interaction with Andros Island. But don't worry, it's going to go back up to a hurricane. And it looked like that was the case, in a few hours later, but it never did. So
No,
if it hasn't gotten to a hurricane now,
it's
it's
not
it
going
ever
to.
will. Yeah.
And the other thing is, again, the character of a storm when it still has its pure tropical characteristics is that the heaviest rains tend to be to the east, and the west side tends to be weaker. And we're seeing that here. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of rain that's falling along the Florida coast, except for maybe right near where the center of the storm is, right along the absolute shoreline, perhaps, or just inland of the shoreline to about I-95. But when you look at the radar, and this should not be a surprise, there really isn't much in the way of rainfall happening as this tropical storm moves up northward. Now, of course, what happens after we get north of Jacksonville is everybody takes a look at this and you see that suddenly the character starts to change where the heavy rain starts to form on the west side. And while there is rain on the east side, the real heavy stuff is on the west side, and that's what's happening up in the Carolinas. You now get a landfall somewhere near Charleston or just northeast of Charleston by Tuesday morning. That's how long it's taking for it to get there. And we're seeing some showery rains that are running up into eastern Pennsylvania Tuesday morning. There's nothing much going on the coast. Again, I want to, one of the things I hate about dealing with these storms sometimes is trying to make the timing clear to folks because inevitably they don't listen to you. So if you say it's not going to arrive till late in the day on Tuesday, all right, okay, if you say to someone it's not going to arrive late in the day on Tuesday, there is probably a 90% chance that they will contact you Tuesday morning and say that the storm petered out and we didn't get anything. And you have to respond by saying, no, I told you it doesn't get here until Tuesday evening. Okay, so it's really important for everybody to kind of get. I'm sorry if I raised my voice there a little bit, but that's one of those things that's happened to me so many times that it just grains. It just gets to me. So
It's frustrating. Sometimes they just don't listen, or maybe it's simply they don't want to listen.
they hear
And
what they people will hear what they want to hear.
right, I mean,
That's
like it's
all.
like in the wintertime, I would say expect the heaviest snows to occur south of 287. And then no sooner do I say that, or no sooner do I post that, but somebody on Facebook will come back and say, so what does that mean for Yonkers? It's like,
Right, and you want to say, okay, okay, moron, you're south of 287. All right, Yonkers is south of 287. So what did I just say? Or the best, I got to give credit for the ones that do this, because that's actually a little, it's on the clever side when they say south of 287 and they ask, well, does it cut off at the South Service Road, the middle of 287, you know, or, or on the North Service Road? But it's kind of funny because there, believe it or not, it does happen a lot. I've been in situations where you're north of 287 and it's all snow covered, and as soon as you go south of 287, it's all gone. So
Right.
anyway, let's go back to this tropical storm and the flow coming in off the ocean, by the way, into the mountains into the Carolinas is going to enhance the rainfall. You see it here on the east side of the mountains in western North Carolina, some pretty hefty rains. And the same happens in Virginia, but it cuts off. It's all east of I-81. And then that heavy band really sets up nicely in eastern Pennsylvania. When I say nicely, I'm talking about the fact that um, it, it it's heavy. Okay, not that it's a nice thing that you're getting heavy rain. I have to put that disclaimer out because the politically correct will take that and twist it into something that to mean something that it doesn't. But you see from a meteorological standpoint that we're seeing the heavy rains set up rather strongly in eastern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey. You see how the NAM takes it. Joe, that's Chesapeake Bay at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I will say this. Again, one of my primary concerns for the south-facing coastlines was the high tide Tuesday evening. So if this is slower, I mean, it does. It looks like the wind doesn't really get going here until late in the day on Tuesday. So maybe that'll time out better with that evening high tide, and then on up into the New England it goes. And then, as we said, weather conditions improve nicely after that. I think the NAM may be a little bit too slow. The GFS, which the new one is about to start, but last night's in terms of timing uh, has the idea is roughly the same, but it's just faster. It's by 12Z Tuesday, it's in southeastern Virginia. By 18Z, it's sitting on right on the exit 92 sign of the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, going along the coast. And then it's up into New England. By 0Z, it's up in central Massachusetts. So suddenly the GFS went faster again.
And I was just looking at a comment. First of all, thank you, Mike Kowalski, for super chat. There were others that unfortunately went on by, and now I can't retrieve. I know
I'll
that
find them.
but Mike mentions, he said, along with the fact that I have a non-refundable trip to AC Tuesday and Wednesday, what will the conditions be, and do you think Wednesday will be salvageable? Thanks for your no-nonsense reporting. Well, Mike, I won't speak for Joe, but Joe, you could bring this up, the 700 to 400 millibar relative humidity, which indicates how dry the atmosphere is at
Of
those
which
levels.
model?
That would be on, you would go to a precip moisture, and I think it's the last thing on precip moisture.
But of which model? The GFS?
Well, yeah, the GFS, if you care
Yeah,
to.
I got it.
And you will see that the brown indicates dry air, dry weather moving in. And by the time we get to Wednesday morning, we're enveloped in brown.
I'm
We're
sorry,
going to have
you, Joe, excuse me, I'm sorry. So it's 700 to 400. I'm trying to find it on the GFS on the really.
precip moisture, Joe.
Oh, precip moisture. Okay, hang on.
And it's the last, I think it's the last
Got
thing
it,
on
got
precip
it, got
moisture.
it.
And you will see that the areas of blue, that's moisture. We're enveloped in moisture, of course, through the course of the storm. But by Wednesday morning, you could already see the dry air impinging into our area from the south. And that shows you that we're going to dry out very, very quickly behind the storm. And as I said yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if we woke up on Wednesday morning to some sunshine. It looks very, very nice. You could see if you roll through this and roll through the storm. Once we
Now the
get to
GFS is
12,
faster, so it actually has all this dry air that comes in Tuesday night, and then has a
right,
little bit of, that there's stuff inland. There's a little bit of moisture inland, but that's probably just some upper trough. The storm's long gone. The
yeah,
storm is
right.
absolutely long gone.
Notice also that the storm is really wound up when it gets here, but then they start to unwind it, so to speak, when it gets past us and moves up to the north
Up into Maine.
and up into Maine. So it'll be a quick hitter. It'll be around. It'll give some nastiness for a few hours. People who are inside will be able to look out their windows and say, "Wow, look at all that's happening." For a few hours late Tuesday or Tuesday evening, and then just as quickly as it came in, it's going to move out, and it will be back to more normalcy, I guess you could say, for Wednesday.
By
So
the way,
yes, answer to your question, Mike Kowalski, yes, I do think Wednesday will be salvageable.
the icon model matches up fairly well again with the Hurricane Center's forecast timing. So if we assume that that has the best timing with respect to this, it, it it doesn't quite crawl it up the Florida coast the way the way the NAM did. It's a little bit faster, so that it's east of Jacksonville by about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it's on the South Carolina coast by 11 o'clock Monday evening. That would match up well with what the Hurricane Center has. And again, you start to see that rain enhancing more west of the low center with less to the east. It's into inland North Carolina Tuesday morning at 12Z. It's over Chesapeake Bay at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And of course, by this time, we're getting showery rains that are increasing throughout much of our area and up into upstate New York and into New England. By 5 p.m., it's in central Delaware and 8 p.m. in central New Jersey. So this actually would time out almost exactly with the high tide, and the south-facing shorelines on Long Island are going to be susceptible to the south wind, which is going to be going on today. It's going on today. It'll be going on tomorrow. So there will be water kind of piling in there, especially with the full moon. So I think there are going to be tidal concerns on Tuesday, and then by 11 o'clock, the center is right on New York City. So everywhere south and west of there, the rain is done. And by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's long gone. This times out. I think this times out better with the Hurricane Center's forecast than the NAM does.
It's going to be interesting, I think, to see on Tuesday what's going to happen on the local uh, TV news channels, whether or not they bring this up to the top of the show and make it sound like the second coming of Sandy is on its way, or whether they just treat it the way it should be treated as a weather system that's going to give us a few hours of nastiness, but don't worry, it's going to be gone by later tonight and tomorrow morning.
Just
And
you know what? Think of Faye. It's almost the same track as Faye. Think of Faye with a little more wind
right,
and
right.
maybe a little more rain. But not nothing. I mean, there'll be the comparisons. They're not appropriate. It's totally not. It's a totally different setup. Again, I would just emphasize that the south-facing shorelines is that one high tide cycle that I think you have to pay attention to, which is the one for Tuesday evening. Now look at the wind field. I mean, it's really I've seen much more impressive looking wind fields on models with tropical storms than this one. We do have gales there. These are sustained winds of 40 knots being indicated Tuesday evening off the New Jersey coast. The wind field is actually a little bit stronger when it's in Chesapeake Bay and on up into Delaware Bay. So we'll get gales out of this. There'll probably be some gusts of 40 to 50 along the immediate coastline. There'll be much less in the way of wind for the inland areas. And as far as the precip is concerned, the total accumulated precip, again, look at the where the max area is. And Joe, as you said, after it gets to a certain point, as it moves northward, it does start to unwind and starts to weaken a bit. And the max rain area, this dark streak of purple that we showed yesterday, was streaking right up the coastline, cuts off somewhere in Maryland, and it does the same again. In fact, if you look at the icon model and just follow that streak of heavy precip, that's really where the track of the storm is, the center of the storm, moving inland into South Carolina. Then you sort of lose that purple track, and that's telling you that the low has become uh, becoming a bit weaker, maybe a bit less tropical as it moves on up to the northeast. So we only have 54 hours of rainfall here, by the way. This only goes out to 54 hours. So uh, when the additional maps come in, you might see that purple streak get extended a bit further to the north. I just noticed that it stopped at 54, and that's at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. So these rainfall amounts are going to be are going to be higher with the low still working out the 6 or 7 hours of prime time.
What makes it difficult on the icon is that the rain totals are they in is that inches or millimeters?
The rain totals are in inches. You know what? I can go to the
Okay.
6Z because I bet you because I don't think it was that much different on the 6Z. But
Yeah.
I'll run it through. You see that purple streak makes it into southern New Jersey. Then there's another streak that's up in upstate New York. In fact, that's where your transition truly goes from west side versus east side is right up in southern New Jersey because then you suddenly see the purple streak stops and another streak starts up in eastern Pennsylvania and through upstate New York. It's kind of interesting
Right.
how that happens. Maybe
Right.
that's the point that it starts to become more extra tropical than tropical.
Right. Right. Yeah, that shows up rather clearly there. So again, it's going to be a bit of rain, a bit of wind, but it's nothing. And we want to stress again, nothing like what we had with Irene, nothing like what we had with Sandy or Floyd or some of the other memorable storms that have hit us over the years. This is just going to be it's going to be like Faye. It'll be like Bertha. It'll be a bit like Doria in 1971. Just a hard hitting, fast moving, short duration rain and windstorm. And I tell you, if you go to bed late and you oversleep on Wednesday, you'll look out the window and say, "Hey, what happened?"
Take a look at how unimpressive the radar in South Florida is right now. It's all offshore. When
Right.
you look at what's going on the satellite, I mean, there are some bands of rain that are coming ashore north and east of the center. But if you go from, say, Melbourne southward, I'll bring up this radar here. This is the Melbourne radar, and uh, okay, put the Melbourne radar on, and you'll see that you've got these bands that are coming in, but from Melbourne on south, there really isn't much of going on at the coast. The echoes offshore, the counterclockwise turning, that's the center of Isaias or Isaias uh, out offshore and kind of creeping along there to the northwest. So I don't. This is probably going to stay offshore. It doesn't look like the center wants to go on land. If it does, it'll be barely touching it.
It's funny. I have a relative. I have a cousin who lives in Florida, and the best man at my wedding, one of my very best friends, lives in Florida too. And they both sent birthday greetings to me yesterday, and both said the same thing. I'm sending this to you now because I don't expect to have power to send it to you tomorrow. And it's looking more and more, at least from the view of this radar, that they probably will still have power. Well, although you can't tell about the winds, and that's the thing that determines whether or not power lines are going to come down or not. But it doesn't look as fearsome or as threatening now as it did, let's say, a day or two ago when they were talking about a hurricane just barely skimming the east coast of Florida. That it's looking less and less like that's going to be the case.
Correct. The hurricane tracking models all keep it offshore Florida, bring it into the Carolinas during Tuesday, and then, uh, except for one outlier that takes it offshore, eastern North Carolina to Montauk to Cape Cod. Uh, the rest of them are all virtually on top of New York City as far as the track is concerned, right up through the Delmarva Peninsula, right through Delaware, right up the Garden State Parkway or just west of the Parkway, which is a toll road, by the way. And then to New York City, Western Connecticut, Central Massachusetts, and on up into Western Maine. Eventually, swinging eastward out north of Newfoundland and north of Nova Scotia by a fair distance. It goes up into northern New Brunswick, and then heads out northeast from there.
Heads out actually out back over the Atlantic Ocean. I never could understand this particular Canadian province. It's Newfoundland, but and Labrador. And I always thought Labrador was its own separate entity, but apparently it belongs to or is joined with Newfoundland. But anyway, at that part north of Newfoundland Island, that's Labrador, and then it goes out to sea, and that pretty well will have written the story. Remember a few days ago we pointed out the differences between the GFS and the GFS parallel, where one of them was trying to take the storm and curve it in a circle and come back
Right.
around,
Right.
uh, and that was south of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and now of course the final outcome is going to be that the darn thing is going to go, all the way to the north and probably die a death in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. So
The GFS GEFs, the ensembles, they've been pretty good here with this storm, shifting west faster than what some of the other models were doing. And the mean position looks like it runs just east of Washington and Baltimore and Philadelphia to about New York City, and then northeast from there. So I really don't see, there's no real room here for the track to change very much. I think we're going to be, we are where we are, and as far as the forecast is concerned. And here's the hurricane centers in terms of the arrival times with the gales. This is based on an old advisory, so let me freshen this up and get a new advisory in there.
you think they'll put up an advisory for Iceland? The weather service at Reykjavik.
Oh God.
Can you
Does
imagine
it
trying to
go up?
say the
Does it
name of?
take? I didn't even look to see what it does once it gets out into the Atlantic, how long it hangs around.
Well, I mean, the ensemble chart that you just had kind of takes a jog toward the west coast of Iceland. So, can you imagine if you're in Iceland and you speak Icelandese? I guess that's how it is. Try to pronounce the name of this storm in if you're from Iceland.
Oh yeah, no, that doesn't work. So the area of gales arriving in North Florida along only barely just along the immediate coast. I mean, I guess they're probably right on the beaches, and I'll pull up some obs in a minute to take a look. By 8 p.m., swinging around just east of Charleston, Myrtle Beach. We do have the various watches and warnings that are up. Tropical storm watches up for the Eastern Carolinas. We've got warnings up for the rest of the Carolinas down into Florida. Nobody's got hurricane warnings up anymore, folks. And then there's your track east of eastern North Carolina. Gales arriving probably 5, 6 o'clock for most of the area of northern New Jersey to southern New England. Earlier than that, maybe early to mid afternoon when you get to southern New Jersey down into Delaware, you can see where they have the 8 a.m. line there. And I would anticipate we're probably going to see tropical storm warnings up all the way up on the coast, and then on its way up into New England after that. I'm going to close a couple of windows here just so that I can I don't want to crash my system. So hang on one second. So let me get rid of this.
Is your
And
system's Windows 7 or 10?
no, I have 10. It's Joe. I've got like between streaming the video, streaming you in here,
Right,
streaming the video out. I'm eating up a lot of bandwidth. So
right.
so every once in a while, if I got too many loops going, it starts to, it'll start to slow down. Just take a look and see. This is an old mission of before I close this page. Let's I want to just check on tropical tidbits to see if there's a new recon in there, just to give it a look.
Wouldn't the new advisory be out now, or?
It is, and I'll get to that in a moment. I just wanted to see if there's a new plane on the way, and negative. There is, but it's nowhere close. Okay, so we'll get that. I think I can close the Storm Prediction Center. I can close this since I already let everybody on my weather on the meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app know that we're on the air doing the Joe and Joe weather show. Okay, so the new advisory from the Hurricane Center is, and the emphasis is being, of course, on heavy rainfall. It is at 26.9 north, 79.6 west. Top wind 65 miles an hour, moving north-northwest at 8. We have our tropical storm warnings that are up. I'll pull up the actual advisory just to see if they changed anything. Okay, some of the changes at 11 o'clock. A tropical storm warning from the South Santee River of South Carolina to Surf City, North Carolina. Tropical storm watch for the North Carolina coast north of Surf City to Duck, North Carolina, which includes Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds. Storm surge watch for the Florida East Coast has been discontinued. The tropical storm warning south of Jupiter Inlet for Florida and for Lake Okeechobee has been discontinued. So that not a surprise that we're getting all this. Position is 90 miles southeast of Fort Pierce, 195 miles southeast of Cape Canaveral, Florida, and that, sir, is where we have it on the advisory.
And they note here on the discussion, the technical discussion, that they're watching another recent burst of deep convection that has just recently developed to the northeast of the center. They talk about rare reflectivity values of 55 to 60 dBz, and that's rare for a tropical cyclone. However, they're going to hold the intensity at 55 knots because, based upon what they've seen with other bursts of convection, they haven't persisted for more than a couple of hours at best. And another Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft is scheduled to investigate the tropical storm later today.
We're back on full screen because I think we've pretty much made our points regarding this tropical storm. I don't know if there's much more that we could really add to it with the results, given what's going on. Big thank yous, Joe, Bill Uber, Mike Kowalski, Jason Kaplan, Brandon Doherty, all hitting super chat today. So happy birthday to Joe.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you to all from yesterday, especially. That was really well beyond what any of you or all of you should have done. In fact, I've even seen now. I forgot who did like a rallying cry to try to get me to 1,000 today as a birthday gift. But if you know anybody, we're going to be doing. I'm going to be doing an update on the tropical storm on Joe Ray Weather on YouTube at 5 o'clock today. And if there are any changes in what we've already told you in this dissertation, we'll certainly pass it along to you. But again, thanks everybody. I want to show you one gift that I got. This is from my daughter, Joe. She, you've heard about these places that sell stars.
Yes.
You register stars. She got me a certificate for a plot of land on the moon.
Oh, very good. You're gonna build a mall.
I've got 1 acre of land on the moon, and in fact, here's the specific spot on the moon.
Well, listen. If Jeff Bezos of Amazon has his way, that 1 acre might be valuable one day.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's trying to just get back to the moon to begin with.
Right.
We're supposed to try to get there by 2024.
Well, between Elon Musk and Bezos and Virgin Galactic, they're going to find a way. I'm convinced of it. Here's another happy birthday for Kenny Salerno hitting super chat for your birthday, Joe. So happy birthday to you. Also want to point out two things. Robert Brown says the HWRF model composite reflectivity and the surface map at 51 hours has a 988 low. So at 51 hours, that 988 low, and let me just bring the HWRF. Hang on one second. I mean, if you ask me, if it's where I think it's going to be inland, the 88 low at 51 hours. I only have it out to 48 hours, so I can't even see it. But I would assume that it's inland in the Carolinas. I suppose it's possible that it could wind up, something, if it were to strengthen a bit when it gets up south of the North Carolina coast. I'm just noticing that the WRF models have a much deeper low, but they also have the WRF models sometimes, Robert, do really crazy things that defy reality. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in what they're showing. And also, I just want to acknowledge that Donna Levasseur pointing out to a few of the folks on the chat board that the onion of weather, referring to the onion of weather is what I call the Weather Channel, referring to still making this sound like this is the second coming of Sandy, and we went through this yesterday with that whole COVIDicane nonsense. What a ridiculous thing to do. Really, just an absolutely ridiculous thing to do. And
Who
I,
was the guy who always used to appear on WKRP Cincinnati? The name of the character who always was the sales guy with the plaid jackets. Do you remember? You
yeah,
remember that?
I have his faces in front of me, but I don't remember who the actor or the
And
character
he was
was.
always trying to sell crazy ideas, like this crazy idea that the Weather Channel is doing right now. That do it, do it. It'll get eyes. It'll get people to come and look and watch or whatever like that. It's great.
Well,
It's
it's nice to
crazy.
see that the folks in the weather world are standing up to it with regards to not liking it because it's tacky. I mean, at the very
Right,
least, it's just tacky,
right.
uh, and it's exploitive. And I
By the way,
and
988 millibars for those of you who have not been able to do the conversion, 29.17 inches of mercury, which means that on your aneroid barometer, the needle is probably pointing way over to the left if you're
yeah.
if you're down in that part of in the Carolinas.
All right, so you know what? It's your birthday, so let's get Briller Jeopardy done, and then you can be on your way to enjoying your afternoon. And are you getting a cake out of this?
Actually, I got what I asked last night for a lemon meringue pie, and
Is
it
it a lemon? Is it a lemon meringue pie with whipped cream? One lemon meringue pie with
with
whipped
whipped
cream.
cream. One. Dear. Well, I haven't. I'm trying to find my Briller Jeopardy question. I don't know if you have yours up already, but
I'm getting there. Okay, so these are all in honor of your birthday. I left out two from Thursday, so I'm trying to go back to that. So let's here's okay. So on your birthday in 2006, New York City recorded its second warmest night on record. What was the low?
the second warmest night would
Hmm.
have to be 83.
Bingo. Correct. In 1956 hurricane season saw how many hurricanes, and which named storm was the most destructive in 1956?
Oh dear. If I were born in 55, I'd have that answer for you right then and there. I don't know 56. I'll take a guess on how many storms. I'll say seven.
Four, and the
Four.
most destructive was Betsy.
Betsy. Okay.
Mm, I
We had two
I
back
gotta
to back.
check. I'm gonna go. I gotta double check that.
We had two back to back in 55 that affected our neck of the woods. That was Carol and Diane. But 56, I can tell you this, when I was born, on the day that I was born in
Okay,
1956,
but
and
this,
I
yeah, he's got 56 and 65 kind of inverted here, I think, because um, the beat he 60 65 was the Beatles song that matches your age
right,
when you're 64.
right, which a
Okay,
lot of
so
people. Tom Hanks turned 64 just a couple of weeks ago, and he said that like virtually every birthday greeting was accompanied by a lyric from that song. So, um,
yeah, and everybody who does it thinks they're original for doing it. Okay, here's some more. What was the number one song in 1956, the week you were born?
the week I was born. Oh
Hmm.
God. I'll say Johnny Mathis. Chances are no, that was too late. That was like in the 60s. Um, I left my heart in San Francisco by Tony Bennett. I,
Oh,
I don't know.
come on, Joe. 50s, Elvis. Heartbreak
Oh,
Hotel. Elvis.
uh,
A Heartbreak Hotel. What was the number one movie?
the number one movie.
And you've talked about this movie. I'll tell you I'll tell you who's in it. Okay.
Right?
Uh, um, who played one of the roles? Edward G. Robinson.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-uh.
Edward G. Oh, the Ten Commandments.
What do you think of your Messiah now? The Ten
It's a lot funny when
Commandments.
Billy Crystal does it.
The number one, the number one television show?
Could it be anything but I Love Lucy?
No, it couldn't. It is I Love Lucy. So that's it. So that that winds up your birthday today.
And do you know that on the day that I was born, August 2nd, 1956, it was a gorgeous day. It was blue sky, bright sun, a high temperature of around 75, low humidity, a near perfect picturesque day, quite in contrast to the dreck that I'm looking down the hallway out the window right now, in terms of high humidity and the ongoing threat of thundery and showery weather.
And
So
Joseph Aranda just hit super chat for you, Joe. Wishing you a happy birthday as well.
thank you very much. Thank
And
you.
I think at
Very
this
much appreciated.
point we will say goodbye for
Well,
the
wait a minute.
day.
What about your questions?
Oh, go ahead. Go through my
Real,
questions. I'm sorry.
real quick. All right, August. It's Mr. Chiappi's turn. What is Central Park's highest and lowest temperature in the month of August?
104, and we've done that one. 50.
Well, 104 in 1918. Lowest was 50 in 1976. So, all right. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Who was the president in 19? This is an easy question. Who was the president in 1956?
Eisenhower.
Right. Question two. How much was a first class stamp in 56?
I'm gonna say 3 cents.
3 cents. Correct. Who won the World Series in 56?
Okay, so it's either the Yankees or Cleveland. If it was the one year that Cleveland won it, I'll say the Yankees.
Yankees, indeed. And how much snow fell in the winter of 55, 56 at Central Park?
Was it 55, 56 was like was a heavy snow year?
Well, not according to what he has here.
Maybe not. I mean, I don't that I couldn't tell you.
33.5.
Well, it was a little above normal.
Yeah, a little
All
bit.
right. Okay. Well, I got
All righty.
3 out of 4 anyway.
Yes.
All right. Look, go have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a happy birthday, and you and I will be on tomorrow night at 7.
And
And
I'm sure we'll have a.
I'm thinking, Joe, that Tuesday, we will be on when everything is, when everybody's blowing away and getting poured on. So maybe we'll have extra long coverage, or
We
maybe not.
could.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
see
And
when we get
it
there.
also depends on whether or not you or I or both of us have power on Tuesday.
Well, that's true also.
Yes.
All right, so we'll see you then, everybody. Thanks for being here on a Sunday. Enjoy your day. Watch the thunderstorms and the potential for severe weather tonight. And we have posts going up on the website and on the app momentarily. So look for